So yesterday, Kamala Harris had a disastrous interview on Fox News. I mean, not to my surprise, but I wanted to go over the interview. I'm only going to go over the parts with the illegal immigration. I might do other segments where I break down other parts of the interview, but I feel like this is very, very important. It's a hot topic. It's something that I feel passionate about. It's something that, I sounded the alarm on about a decade ago, more or less. And, people deleted me, blocked me, things of that nature, stopped talking to me, called me a racist, xenophobic. And, unfortunately, or fortunately, I've been vindicated at this point because everything I said happened and it came to pass, and I was right. So let's get into it.
Pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And
so this is what she always does. She doesn't answer the question. She starts skating around it. She starts, babbling, trying to kill time. In basketball, it's called running out the clock. Just say the number. What is the number? How many millions is it? But she doesn't want to say the number because she's going to look bad.
You know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Bret, let's just get to the point.
She won't answer the question. And that's what this whole interview was. She will not answer the questions.
Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And
she was never going to answer the question. She was not going to give a number. She was going to start just going into her usual babble. Then she's going to pivot to blaming Trump. That's all she was going to do. And I'm glad that he checked her on it.
When you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes.
Correct.
So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
See, because that's what they did. That's what Biden and Kamala did. As soon as they got into office, they reversed a lot of Trump's policies when it came to the border, which led to the influx of, you want to call them migrants, illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them, that led to it, right? And they released a lot of people. He said it, millions and millions of people that shouldn't have been released into the country, right? So it was her policy, his policy, that led to this.
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act.
Again, dragging out the answer.
Before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act.
And we're going to get to that bipartisan thing in a little bit.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
The bill that she's talking about was an amnesty. They wanted to amnesty over 11 million illegal immigrants. That's not fixing the problem. You just get in a pathway to citizenship, right? So you're going to reward people for breaking the law, coming here illegally, right? And somehow that was fixing the problem. No, that's enticing more people to come in. And I have my theories of why they want to amnesty people. We'll get to that in another video. But understand the game that they're playing here. The game that she's playing, right? She's saying, oh, well, I proposed this and this was going to fix the situation. It wasn't. It wasn't. It was not even close. They reversed all of Trump's policies on the border.
system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship.
Pathway to citizenship. You see how she's trying to stop him from saying that it was an amnesty. How is that fixing illegal immigration by giving 11 million people citizenship?
Please finish.
Yes,
may I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish.
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things.
If you were trying to fix the problem, you would have kept Trump's policies at the border intact. And then you wouldn't have tried to amnesty people, give over 11 million illegal immigrants citizenship in this country.
Including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents.
Okay, let's talk about that border bill. Nobody seems to push back on this. I believe he does in this interview. Nobody pushes back on the so-called border bill. And I'm going to put up the border bill so you guys see where the money was going, how much money was allocated to the actual border. Okay, so this proposal was $118 billion. Now let's go down. This is a border bill, right? This is about our border, right? Okay, $118 billion, okay? Now, $2.4 billion of those dollars were going to Red Sea conflicts, okay? $4.8 billion was going to the Indo-Pacific. $10 billion was going to Gaza. $14 billion was going to Israel, right? $20 billion was going to U.S. border security, right? And $60 billion was going to the Ukraine. So how is this a border bill with all of this other garbage in there? Explain that to me. Again, this is the game that they play. You're not going to hear about this when they do these debates and everything. You're all you're going to hear, and when she does these interviews, all you're going to hear is her say like, oh, they stopped the border bill. They stopped the border bill. If you're telling me I'm going to give you X amount of dollars for the border, right? But then you're going to say, okay, the remaining, what is that, $98 billion is for all this stuff. That's not a border bill. This is not a bipartisan issue. They could have easily signed a real border bill, right? And also enforced the laws, because what's the point of bringing in more border agents just to process people into the country if you're not going to let them do their job? That's not a border bill. So I just wanted to point out the game that's actually being played here. They're saying, oh, the Republicans did this, they crushed it, oh, Trump stopped it. I don't know how Trump has all this power when he's not even president, right? And he holds no political position, right? Apparently he has this power. And there was also 6 Democrats that voted against it. So again, this is the game. It's a setup. I'm going to tell you why this is a setup and this is a game. They knew that they weren't going to sign off on that border bill because you have all this other stuff. So they just say, oh, look, we proposed this bill knowing that they're going to reject it, and then shift the blame to the Republicans. This bill happened earlier in the year. We're talking about 2024. I believe they proposed it sometime in 2023, right? Biden had already been in office for over 3 years, whatever it is. So what happened in that time span? What happened? What happened was they reversed all of Trump's policies, which is how we got here.
Agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States.
She starts talking about fentanyl, and I'm the only one that prosecuted transnational criminals, blah, 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 blah.
Scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred.
They killed it because of all the pork that was in it. It should have been a bill only for the border, and they should have been actually enforcing the laws on the border. Do you know that her administration actually sued the state of Texas, the great state of Texas, which I live in, sued Texas, stopping them from doing what they had to do? They were trying to put up barbed wire. They were trying to do everything that they could to stop illegal immigrants from coming, and they actually sued. They created this problem, and now they're saying they're the solution. And again, I have my own theories of why they want mass illegal immigration. We'll get into that another time.
Run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
Yeah, she's not playing political. Jesus Christ.
Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal.
Right here. The 6 Democrats that voted against it. It wasn't just Trump influencing Republicans. They voted against it. Why did they vote against it? Because of all the other garbage that was in that bill. This was not an act of good faith. They knew this bill was going to get rejected because of all the other garbage that was in there. And then they shift the blame to Republicans, shift the blame to Trump.
Illegal immigrants into the country a year.
They were also going to allow over 1 million illegal immigrants to enter the country per year. Do you understand the game that's being played here?
A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated
Correct. As a result of them reversing Trump's illegal immigration policies. These women were assaulted. These women were murdered.
Partisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you...
Will she say that they made a mistake with those policies? Will she apologize for those policies? Will she admit that Trump's policies worked? No.
Do you owe
Bret,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred.
It occurred because of you.
So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago...
You see, and see how she shifts right back to, oh, this border security bill. And this was after the fact, right? And I just went over, this was not a border security bill, right? She shifts right back to Trump. No accountability for the mistakes of her administration. What's going to change? What's going to be different? It's the same administration.
It would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will...
They should have never been let into the country. And she's starting to talk about, oh, the border security bill and blah, 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 blah. It's her fault. It's Biden's fault. The game that's being played. I hope everybody's seeing it.
Determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is
fixing a problem. She created the problem. Biden created the problem.
Not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Bret.
Madam Vice President, it was a...
That bill was not a solution.
Policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let...
That was a policy decision that they made on day one, and somehow she's blaming Trump.
One of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss.
I'm so sorry for her loss. Still won't say that the policies were wrong. Still won't apologize for those policies. Still won't do it. Can't do it.
Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does...
She shifts right back to Trump. Those women are dead because of her and Biden's policies, and she shifts right back to Trump.
Not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in
her?
all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
She had said, the border's secure, the border's secure, the border's secure, right? This is what she had said.
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in...
I mean, I will agree that the immigration system has been broken for a while. That much is true. I'm surprised that she actually admitted that.
Saying that this is a perfect immigration system, I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more... I was just down at the border talking...
You know, that was the first... She just went to the border for the first... She was the border czar. First time she went to the border was very recently, like a month or two ago.
With border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably... I know you investigate, and you are a serious journalist.
And by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed Donald J. Trump.
They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need this support.
Yeah, process the cases faster and let more people into the country. Makes sense, yeah.
For those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system
That's not true, because why did you reverse the policies?
works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
There were
that's how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days.
Bingo, they rescinded all of those orders. They created the problem.
Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security.
Bingo.
Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support.
They're frustrated with you, and they're frustrated with Biden for not allowing them to do their job.
They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. To immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify.
Correct. She supported that, and she also wanted to decriminalize border crossing. She said that multiple times when she was running for president in 2019.
Qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over.
Now she'll follow the law. Okay.
Again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that...
This lady's a liar. You can tell that she's a liar. She's saying all of these things now right before the election. If she gets into office, which she's not going to, but God forbid, she's going to try to push that stuff.
That is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational.
The same, she goes back to the same, everything that she says is scripted. I am the only one in this election that has prosecuted transnational criminals. It's all scripted. I don't even think that any of these are her actual beliefs. I believe that whoever's, pulling the strings is telling her what to say and telling her what she should want to do.
Criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel. Right. To people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people. And
so then why did you let all these people into this country illegally? All these criminals, all these murderers.
Cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
Okay, that's pretty much the immigration. Like I said, I'm probably going to go do a couple more videos on the other stuff that she went over and her lies and her getting defensive. I just wanted you guys to see, what happened and give my thoughts. This lady's dangerous. This lady's very, very, very dangerous. So, I'll see you guys soon.